Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another YouTube video with your boy Pollux the Wise. I hope you guys are doing absolutely frogging splendid, taking care of yourselves, and as always, staying safe. In today's episode, we are back with another tutorial on how to mod the game Kingdom Rush Vengeance on Steam. And in today's episode, we're going to be dealing with special modifiers and abilities that you can add to enemies to make them a lot more beefy and tanky. So if we look at the current level that we're in, which is known as Magnesia Soars, I think that's how you pronounce it, something like that. You'll see in this one wave here that we have a bunch of channelers, chasers, and infusers, and we also have some chasers up here and down here. So if we click the wave and we start it, you know, these guys, they have their normal abilities, they just come out, they do their thing. There's nothing really that special, okay? You know, they just do their thing, and it's kind of boring. You know, I really wish that we could give some modifiers to these guys and make them a little bit more chonky and just tanky. So what if there was a way that we could do that? Well, ladies and gents, that is what we're going to be exploring in today's episode. We're going to be exploring how to give channelers and infusers the ability that they need to shield and buff these chasers so that they're a lot stronger. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, as always, we're going to go ahead and rage quit the game by pressing quit. Yeet! And I've already got the File Explorer open. There you go. Wonderful. As per usual, we're going to be going to our same file path as before. Starting with this PC, Windows in parentheses C:, then Program Files in parentheses x86. We're going to go to Steam, Steam Apps, Common. You know the drill. If you guys have been watching this series, you know exactly where to go. And if you don't know, well then, stick around. In any case, you're going to go to Kingdom Rush Vengeance. Now this is where things are going to get a little bit different. We're going to go to KRV just like normally before. However, in order to basically make the changes we want to make, there's two things that need to happen. The first is that you got to change the wave composition to include said enemies at a specific point in time, so that, you know, they come out together and then you can actually confirm that the effects and changes that you've made are actually being indeed made, which we've already done. We've already taken care of the wave composition part. I will be probably doing a second episode where I just focus on wave composition. I already did a live stream on this like a while ago. I doubt anybody watched it. So I'll probably just do a separate secondary video on that here pretty soon shortly, and we'll just go from there. But you're going to go to Settings, and then we're going to go to Unit Settings, and we've got this little wonderful box here, this absolutely enormous box, I should say. So let's go ahead and exit this File Explorer out, and now we're going to go ahead and full screen this window. So now that we have all of this open, what are we going to do first? Well, the first thing we're going to do is change the channelers to buff the Enurian chasers. And if you look for the channelers in the code, there's a couple ways you could do this, but I believe the way that they go about spelling their name in the code is actually Bullywag's Channeler, and just so happens that when I did Control+F, typed in that exact same phrasing, Bullywags, BULLYWAGS_Channeler, we got our first result, which was the enemy that we were looking for. Why they call this just Channeler, or why they wouldn't just call this Channeler instead of Bullywags Channeler in the code, beyond me. But nevertheless, we're here at the correct spot that we need to be. Now, you're going to notice that you would think, oh, well, there's probably some skill here that we need to copy if we're going to basically give the chasers what we want. If we go to the skills, the start of the skills array here, you're going to notice that there's a melee attack, a ranged attack, and that's it. There is no other skills underneath the channeler, and this is an exception to the rule. 9 times out of 10, when you're dealing with special abilities that you want to add to enemies, you're going to go to the enemy that actually has that ability. You're going to copy paste it or change it to include other specific enemies to do something. Not the case with the channeler. Instead, you have to go to the enemies that are already affected by the channeler, such as the erudites and the crystal demolishers, and look for code underneath those too. So if you can see down here, here's for an example, Bullywags_erudite. If we scroll down to the skills array at the start here, you're going to see it's got its melee attack, and then right underneath that is where the aura is. So this is the aura. And basically, it includes a specific target for extra data modifiers that it's putting on itself. And basically, the duration effect is such that it's overriding and modifying itself so that it deals more damage, which sounds kind of absurd, but we just keep scrolling through here. We're going to see its normal ranged attack, and notice that the damage min and max has already been set here, and I believe somewhere in here it should have, never mind. Either way, I think it's set like this because of the fact that it can store up to 3 magic bolts at a time. But that's besides the point. What we're going to focus on in the purpose of today's episode is copy-pasting the code from the Crystal Demolisher, also known as the Bullywags_Golem. Why they call this, I have absolutely no idea. Ironhide, come on, please, get it together. Why are you calling them Bullywags? That's just ridiculous. In any case, you're going to see here we've got all these different abilities for the Golem, but what you're going to be looking for underneath the skills array, so if you ever were wondering, am I in the right neighborhood here, basically? Am I in the right vicinity of where I need to be in the code? Basically, just find the enemy that you want, and the first thing you're going to do is always look for the key skills key array. This is where all of the skills, whether it's melee attacks, ranged attacks, anything like that, is going to be located for each and every single enemy that you're going to want to modify. So this is the first thing you got to do. You got to locate this location. Once you're there, you're going to see all the different skills, and they're organized into different dictionaries and chunks of code. Chunks of code being referred to as dictionaries, but they're inset, so it is what it is. You'll get used to how things are organized. But basically, you're going to scroll through. If you ever want to know which skill you're on, just look for the key. The keys, pun intended here, are the key to figuring out where you are. So you've got your key here at the top. Say that fast 3 times. Key. And string is melee. So this is the melee attack for the Crystal Demolisher. Here's the key for the area modifier death. So for those of you who don't know, Crystal Demolishers, when they die, they explode, dealing area damage. Areola damage, I should say. Excuse me. Gotta satisfy the real Morgan's craving for that areola damage. And then underneath that, we have a key for the aura, which is where they basically gain armor every single time that there is a Anurian channeler near them. So it says includes targets, Bullywags_channeler. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by giving the chasers in today's episode extra armor, but not just physical armor. We want to give them magic armor because they already have physical armor. And I don't know if you guys saw, but I did click on, I think I clicked on some of the chasers. If I didn't, you'll see later on. I already gave them high armor just for the purposes of demonstrating today's episode. But so we're going to go ahead. We're going to start by selecting this dictionary up here above the key where it says aura. And we're going to scroll all the way down to the corresponding end dictionary here. Sometimes it's a little difficult to locate, especially if this ability is located at the bottom of a list, because you're going to see a bunch of dictionaries at the end here along with arrays. It gets confusing. What I like to do to just help position myself, I just line my cursor up, and then I start slowly scrolling down. If I get to a corresponding start of a less than symbol, / then DICT, greater than symbol, I know I'm at the right spot. I know that sounded probably a little bit confusing, but bear with me here. Either way, so we've got all this. We're going to press Control plus C. C is in cat. And now we've copied all this code. Now, if you don't want to spend a million years trying to find where the chaser is, that's okay. Scroll back to the top of the code and just open the Control plus F find key box. And what you're going to do is just type in chaser. Hit enter. And it should bring you to the start of the Anurian units, which is right here. Key Sappos. That's what they refer to this faction as, Sappos for some reason. And then right underneath that, key chaser key. So you know you're at the right enemy. So once we have that established, we're going to go down to the skills array once again. And you're going to see there is a list of skills that this thing obviously has. The first one being the move 2 units. So this is their ability where they basically jump if there's a barracks unit a short distance down the path from them on top of them. And then right underneath that, you've got the melee attack. So this is the string melee string ability. So this is just their basic attack. Now, where you put this ability does not matter. I normally, if I am ever making changes to enemies in the code, I like to put any changes that I make as far as their skills are concerned at the bottom, That way I just can scroll to the bottom of the skills array. I know where my changes are at. It's consistent every single time. If you guys want to, you can put it always at the top, right here underneath the key skills key array, if that just makes it simpler for you guys. You don't want to scroll the extra distance. I just normally do this at the bottom because then that way I can see what are the latest changes I've made. I know where to go to look for them. Makes things a little bit easier for myself. But wherever you guys want to put this, as long as it's not inside of another ability, if that makes sense. So for example, if I were to like copy paste this like right here, this is a chunk. This is a chunk of code. This is an entire skill, the basic melee attack right here. I cannot obviously put this skill, copy paste it, inside another skill. That's not going to work. So I'm going to do Control+Z and get rid of all that code, and we're right back to where we were. I have to put it outside another skill. If you accidentally put a skill inside of another skill and you try and run the game, chances are it's going to crash. So don't do that. So I'm going to make a new line. I'm going to copy paste. Perfect. And now I'm just going to position my cursor here. I'm going to scroll all the way up. And yes, we have this in the correct location. Now, basically, that we have this done, we've got all this code here. We don't need to really change too much about it, but let's say that instead of giving an increase in the armor for the chasers, we want to give them extra magic resistance. All we have to do is locate the armor type, which is currently set to 0. So that is for physical armor. So for those of you who don't know, channelers have the ability to increase Crystal Demolisher's physical armor by, I believe, at least, well, it shows it right here, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%, depending on how many channelers are in range of that Crystal Demolisher. In this instance, we're going to change this so the armor type is a 0. Instead of that, we're going to type in a 1. We're going to hit Control+Save. And now that we've got that, all we need to do is basically minimize this window now that we've saved our changes. So Control+S, S is in Sam. And we're going to go back into the game real quick to confirm that our changes took place. I thought I turned this off. Okay. Yeah, we're just going to keep that off for the rest of this video just because I wanted some music at the intro, make things a little bit more lively, but it is what it is. And now if we run this level, without really building or changing anything, when we start the wave, we should see an icon appear around the chasers that are being affected. And yes, we do. If we click on them, you're going to see that some of them, depending on how many Anurian channelers are near them, are gaining or losing magic resistance at any one point in time. So the ones closest to the channelers will have this little pink circle aura here, and basically, you know, have extra magic resistance, which is good. This is what we wanted. So this fixes this issue that we wanted here. So, you know, everybody's running through, they're doing their own thing. Great, great, great. I don't know how the hell we didn't lose a life there. There we lost a couple lives. Anyways, so that's the first of many changes that we wanted to do today, which is great. Now, let's go ahead here, and we're going to make another change. This time around, we're going to give the infusers, who have the capability to currently shield Anurian wardens, that same ability to do that for Anurian chasers. Now, this is just as an example. I'm not obviously probably going to include this in my mod, wink, wink. I'm just kidding. I'm 100% going to include this in my mod. I mean, that's just too juicy to pass up. You got to take advantage of things when you can. What can I say? I mean, Infusers OP, man. Infusers are absolutely frogging OP. So let's scroll all the way to the top here. Excuse me. And a little bit of a cursor issue there. Control+Find. Or Control+F. I keep saying Control+Find. It's the same thing, basically. But in any case, let's go down to Infuser this time. This is a case where when you modify what an enemy does as far as its abilities are concerned or who it's affecting, you go straight to the enemy that's using the ability itself, not the opposite way around. Again, for channelers or any enemy that's affected by Anurian channelers, that is like a sole exception to the rule. It's usually not the normal. So now that we're at the key skills array, we're going to go through the list of abilities here. We're going to see this first chunk of code here applies to the melee attack. The next one says Infuser Charge Crystal. Now, for those of you who don't know, Infusers have the ability to charge up crystals that are scattered around the map, and basically once they have it fully charged, those crystals will fire off a bolt of energy, lightning, whatever the hell you want to call it. Basically disables your towers for a short duration. Not fun. Not fun at all. The next thing is the range unit, and this is the Warden Shield. Okay, this is what we want. Now, if I really wanted to be cruel here, I could make this cooldown even quicker so that it casts the shields faster. We're not going to do that. We just want to change it so that it affects the, the chasers instead of just the wardens. Now, you'll also notice that I changed it so it could affect the crystal demolishers as well. But this one is a pretty simple change. All you have to go down here to is this little key array that says includes underscore targets. Targets meaning the enemies that it's affecting with the shield. And the crazy thing is here, ladies and gents, you can basically apply this to almost just about any single Anurian unit that you want in the game. All you got to do is just try it, run the game, see if it works. Most enemies it will. There are... excuse me for a moment. I cannot English today. It's morning. There are perhaps a couple of exceptions that I have not yet run across, but if you guys happen to find any, let me know down in the comment section below. All we have to do is just basically take one of these strings with the name of the enemy that we want to have this thing cast a shield onto, and just put it right here in the middle between this string and then string with the / at the start of the word string at the end. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically you could just copy one of these two lines here, put it anywhere underneath. I mean, shoot, you could put this underneath here. This line, it does not matter where it is in the array. As long as they're not, directly within one another, that's okay. So we've got Chaser here. If we go ahead and save our changes, let's go ahead and rerun the game. Basically, what should end up happening now is the infusers will start to cast shields at the Anurian Chasers, if we made our changes correctly. So we go ahead, we open our level again. We go ahead and we run it. And here we go. And yep, I already saw some of these chasers are now starting to get shields, which is absolutely hilarious. I mean, oh my god. Look at how buff these guys are. They have high armor. They now have high magic resistance depending on how many channelers are standing near them. They get shields that basically negate all damage, unless it's an insta-kill, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if the insta-kills are get cock-blocked by the shields or not. Now, to compensate, you can make the damage reduction for the shields lower, depending on what you're, obviously looking for, or if you want to even attempt to balance this game. Whatever you guys want to do, it's up to you. Just keep in mind that these shields basically will stay on the chasers as long as they're alive. So keep that in mind. Now that we've done all of that, let's say you want to do something like, say, give a unit passive HP regeneration. So basically the ability to regenerate its wounds slowly over time, or fast over time, depending on how cruel or evil you want to be. There's an easy way to do this. What we're going to do here is quit out of the game, as per usual. We're going to go back into this file, same one that we've been modifying again, and we're going to scroll all the way to the top. We're going to control find NIAN, the Nions. Now, if you guys haven't seen these enemies before, I don't blame you. They're pretty annoying. They basically have an ability to passively regen their HP, and yes, it is very annoying. However, for some reason, I seem to have accidentally removed that code from their arsenal of abilities, and I think that's probably because it was just straight up too overpowered when they were on water. That's just a little wee ridiculous. But that's okay. I believe I copied it somewhere else. And it doesn't really matter where you're copying it from, as long as you're copying it from an enemy that has passive HP regen. That is all that matters. So, I believe the Mecha Dwarf does have it. So let me go ahead here and find the code that I'm looking for. Apologies. I probably should have had this set up beforehand, but it's all good. It's all good. And where is it? Here we go. This is exactly what I was looking for. Basically, you're going to see an ability underneath the skills array. So just to show you guys I am still within the right vicinity. Key skills key array. Here's the melee attack. Here's the melee areola damage ability. Right underneath that, I've made a new ability for the Mecha Dwarf. And it's basically passive HP regen. So if we take a look at this code here, it's basically going to say key string regeneration, so that's the name of the ability. It's going to say override conditions set to true, which that's definitely important to include that. The cooldown is every 1/5 of a second, so 0.2 seconds. And then the key healing points is set to the integer 5. Now, this is important. You can change this to be a decimal number. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to use the prefix real and then /real inside of these less than greater than quotes at the start and end of each value. So if you were to do something like 0.4 right here instead of this 5, this would not work. The game would probably crash or just not, register the change at all. And the reason for that being is because this is a decimal number, and integers are only supposed to be whole numbers. Notice how this up here, this is a real number, so it's a decimal number. You can't put an integer, I guess I should say other way around, excuse me. It's kind of like the rectangle and square situation. Every square is technically a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. So in other words, every integer is also a real number by definition, but not every real number by definition is also a whole number or an integer. So if you wanted to make this a whole number, all you'd have to do is just change this to something like 1.0. So the cooldown is basically 1 second, and every second it will heal by 5 points. But alternatively, you could make it so that it's 0.2 seconds by 5 healing points. This works, so just to give you guys as an example. But in any case, what we're basically going to do is we're going to copy this code, okay? And we're going to paste it where the chasers are. So we're going to do Control-Find, Chaser. And just to show you guys that this works, you're going to kind of need to make this something ridiculously high at the start just to see any kind of visual, change or, impact as far as the HP regen is concerned. Because believe it or not, 25, HP regen per second. I mean, yeah, that's fast, but considering that it's constantly taking damage from several towers, it's difficult to explain. But sometimes it just gets overwhelmed so quickly with so much damage from so many different sources that you're really not going to notice that HP regen all that much. But here we go. Let's see if we can make this even more ridiculous. Let's do a cooldown of 0.1 seconds, and instead of 5 HP, let's do something like, I don't know, we'll do 15, because why not? So every 10th of a second, this thing will regain 15 HP, which is just utterly absurd. Minimize it. Make sure you save your changes first, obviously. Always make sure to save your changes, and do it frequently. Because the worst thing that you can have happen is you make a bunch of changes, you go to save it, you try out the game, and then something doesn't work. You have to go through all the changes you just made, and it's just a waste of time. So here we go. Magnesia Shores. Magnesia Shores. I think that's... I've been saying it wrong for so long. Has anybody else been doing that? I've been saying Magnesia Shores for so long, and I just don't even think about it. Okay, anyways, let's go ahead and get a Archer. Just level 1. This should be good enough to test. Because this thing deals 9 to 14 damage. Yeah, and as you guys can see here, this thing, it's not taking any damage because it is taking damage, but here you go. You can see, I mean, these things are barely even getting affected. Yeah, see, as soon as they get hit by the Tesla coil, it almost immediately regens its HP. I don't know if you guys could see that there. It was a little difficult. Yeah, Doom Tank there. Able to deal a lot of damage, but they just heal that damage right back up. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to keep this like this. This is completely unbalanced and completely broken. Don't do that. That's going to make the level impossible to beat. But in any case, ladies and gents, that's about going to do it for the end of today's episode. But just hopefully this will give you an idea of some of the things that you can modify in the game to get your units to have as far as passive or new abilities are concerned. If you guys have any questions, please let me know down in the comment section below. I'll be happy to help as much as I can, as best I can with what limited knowledge I have to give to you guys. But in any case, I will hopefully see you all in the next YouTube video or live stream. This is Pollux the Wise saying peace out.